Welcome back to Nightmare Logic, the podcast that features your favorite beasts, monsters, and creatures. Today, we're your cryptid zookeepers, Christopher Smith,
Peter Sawyer,
and Taffeta Darling.
And listen in as our good friend, creature actor, and Wildcard Pat Jankiewicz joins us for a lively discussion about comics, Kolchak, and his beastly career. All right, guys, awesome. We're back together in person for another audio recording. That's exciting because we've been doing it, over Zoom or Riverside, really, for the last few days.
I dig it. It's nice to see you guys' faces in person.
Yeah.
Plus, the studio is really cool. I like looking at all Peter's cool things.
It really sets the vibe, Peter. So for you guys can't see, obviously, but we're in Peter's office, which is like adorned with all sorts of horror posters, memorabilia.
A lot of Kurt Russell. So if you guys know me, fit right in.
A lot of punk stuff, too.
Yeah. Black walls, red curtains, Ouija board, coffee tables, all pretty dope. Great. Well, so we've all seen things in the last week or two. So what have you seen that you like?
I saw some. This is a quick story I want to share because this was kind of unusual and seems like appropriate. So I flew to Maine to see family about a week ago, and coming from Southern California, it's like there's no direct flights, so I had a couple of layovers on the way. And my first layover was in Phoenix, so I board the plane. I'm behind the right wing, but I could see the conveyor belt that goes into the cargo bay. And, you usually see luggage, but this cart pulls up and this giant box is being loaded on. And I look at it and it says human remains. And that's a first. So That felt like, wait, what's going on? And then you see a soldier and you see the pilot standing by, and they get on the plane, and the pilot makes an announcement that this gentleman, his name was James, I don't know if that was his first or last name, was a soldier in World War II, and they had just found and identified his remains just now. And so they were taking it home to Baltimore, which was where the next stop was. So he's like, please let our soldier off first because he's kicking off the ceremony. So then when we landed, it was rainy, and there was just all these vets and a couple civilians, and they draped the flag over it, and it was just their ceremony. So it's just kind of wild and unexpected to see on a flight.
Totally, and it seems like actually a really good setup for a horror film.
Yeah, that's how something starts.
Human
ominous as fuck.
Seeing a human remains on a box being loaded into the plane, it seemed. That seemed so cool. Kind of appropriate, but it was interesting just to be like, damn, at World War II, 1940, MIA. And
what else? You saw something while you were out there too, right?
I watched a couple things. Before getting into Obsession, I'll talk about, I watched a movie called Of Unknown Origin, and that was starring Peter Weller, who everyone knows from RoboCop. If you've seen Firstborn, that was one of his earlier films that I liked, but it's directed by George P. Cosmatos. And if you don't know who he is, he directed Tombstone.
Tombstone was so good.
He directed Cobra, which is, I could talk for hours on. That's like the greatest non-horror movie with the best slasher scene I've ever seen. And he did this film. He's also the father of the guy who did Mandy. And Of Unknown Origin, Peter Weller's like a family man climbing the corporate ladder. His wife and kid go out of town, and he has like a project he needs to deliver in 2 months to get the promotion. And it turns out there's a large rat that has decided to take over his house, and he just like loses his mind trying to kill this thing. So it's just kind of fun seeing.
Relatable.
Yeah. Peter Weller go ham, like wearing spiked cleats and taking baseball bats to walls. Fun movie.
That's cool.
That might not be on a lot of people's radar because it's from like the very early 80s. It's also like one of Stephen King's favorite movies, which is why I wanted to see it, but it's very much not like a Stephen King story. So wanted to mention that. But I can get into Obsession now, or if you guys want.
Why don't you save Obsession? We'll come back to you at the very end of the little banter section here to hear how Obsession was.
Sure.
Yeah, Taffeta, what you got?
Oh, I'm still plowing through Tales from the Crypt. That's probably all I'm going to be watching outside of playing like some video games. But now Shudder has released like all the seasons, so now I can go in and just pick and choose the ones I want to watch.
Yeah, nice.
And one of the ones I'd forgotten about, but I also really loved is the Joe Pesci one.
He's so good.
Joe Pesci won a split personality where he plays like two versions of himself. Like he comes upon like these two sisters who their dad has died and they're really rich. And so he's kind of like this con man. So he goes there and he like woos them. But then he realizes, hey, you know, like they're twins. What if I somehow, you know, tell them I have a twin who has to be out of the country all the time. And eventually they find out and just really like, you know, tear him up, like literally. But it's just funny just to the caliber and the random people that show up in these Tales from the Crypt episodes. And you've got Joe Pesci playing like his traditional self, but then like a California, like, you know, with a ponytail and like kind of a sleaze bag. And I don't know. And just trying to be romantic, which is also really funny for me for some reason. I don't know. I guess I'm just so ingrained with him being a tough guy that when he tries to have any sort of like romance, I'm just like, this is so odd. Yeah. But it's just the era of the time. Anyway, so...
Wow. I mean,
that's one of the ones that I had forgotten about that I'm glad to see again. I'm like, fuck yeah.
Yeah.
That's good.
Yeah. I need to keep going on those too. Well, I saw two things I want to talk about. One is a short that was released called The Littles. It's by some of the filmmakers behind Nightmare Before Christmas, Coraline, FX's American Horror Story, Pinocchio, Talk to Me, bunch of whatever. Like, I don't know. Some people got together and made this. It's a stop motion animated short. It's like maybe 7-10 minutes long.
Question.
Yeah.
It's not based on the cartoon show from the 80s, The Littles, is it?
I know, right? That's what I went to too. We are the Littles.
I don't know. It's like, I don't want to ruin it. It's so short. I don't want to say too much, but it basically features these like little people live under the floor, which is where the name comes from.
That's totally
the show.
it.
Is it?
Yeah.
Yes. That was like the best thing on like Nickelodeon with like David the Gnome back in the day.
Yeah,
like,
David the Gnome was tight.
That had the best.
I probably saw The Littles and don't
I think they
remember
made
it.
a movie of The Littles. Like I have a vague memory of seeing that in the theater. I got to look that up.
Yeah. Well, I'll this will be
cool.
on the show notes. So you guys can go check it out. But
that's amazing.
But it's stop motion, and it has like a, we'll just say light horror aspect to it.
Huh.
And it's good though. It's really creative. I love stop motion, which is why I wanted to talk about it. And then I saw, I got to go to an advanced screening of Passenger through a friend of Peter and I guess all of us now, Nikhil. And it was really great. It was interesting. There was a Q&A with the writer and two of the producers. So getting some of the inside baseball of that. And I took a friend and we went to that before it was released. I think it was like Tuesday, and I think it was released on Thursday or Friday or something. So anyways, it was really cool. I liked it. I've seen some negative reviews about it, which I kind of agree with their points. I think they're, maybe we're a little harsher on it than I would have been because I had a good time, but it's not the most like, what's the word I'm looking for? Like in depth, or if you're going in looking for a elevated horror, it's like not that kind of a thing. It's like we have the outline of a setup, of like of rules of this world, and but it's like fun and the scares deliver, and like it's really well directed and stuff like that. So it's actually the guy who did
he's a Norwegian guy. He did Troll Hunter.
Hunter, yeah.
He did The Autopsy of Jane Doe,
That's it. That was what I was thinking of.
I will say probably has the best horror tone of modern movies I can think of.
Yeah.
I don't think it stuck to the landing. I mean, I liked a lot of it. I just didn't like the ending. But it really had a great tone the way that kicked off that I pine for in movies.
Yeah. And this has a great tone too. For those who don't know, it's it's like a road horror movie, and it's kind of about this couple they're doing van life and they get haunted on their travels. And I thought it was like interesting to do in general. I think movies that the hauntings aren't like confined to one space are interesting, right? Because it's like you almost have to have all sorts of rules because we all know that ghosts like just traditionally are inhabit a house. So you don't have to explain that. You know what I mean? But when you're like, okay, how does this ghost follow them state to state or whatever? It's like you gotta have to have like a way that works.
Right. The trailer reminded me of this movie from the early 2000s I liked called Dead End, which is like a family dealing with the same kind of thing.
Yeah.
So I'm curious how, what they do similar, what they do differently.
Yeah. Yeah. I think the way that they approached it, and this is what a lot of the criticism I read boils down to, is that it's like kind of as they kind of come at it from a religious angle, which, feels to the critics that I've read, feels a little like shoehorned in a bit, like it's not entirely organic. But, I mean, it's not the kind of movie where I think you need more than that, you know, like, cause
Right.
I'm just there for the fun, you know? So, but it was good. It was good. So how did Obsession rate to you?
Okay, Obsession. So I have a quick story about that as well. I saw that in Falmouth, Maine, and the theater I saw it at had like a lot of little theaters in it, and the screen in the one is like 15, 20 feet off the ground, like steep slope.
So you have to like look up at it?
Well, no, I mean like the seats were comfortable, but because of the slope, there was a group of people a few seats ahead of me, and one of them had their cell phone on the screen, and I could see it. It was like almost above their head because they were like leaned back, and
like filming the screen.
No, just playing fucking games. So it was distracting.
Outrageous.
Yeah. So
outrageous.
I was like, if it was a lower, it wouldn't bother me, and I don't want to be that guy. But I've never gone up to someone. But I went up and I was like, hey, that's distracting. I'm doing this, and it was like two girls, teenage girls, sitting on each other, and they were like, looked up at me with like, you know, deer-eyed, and I'm like, they're like, oh shit, sorry, we didn't. And I'm like, just lower it. And then they put on like dark mode, but then they left like 10 minutes later. So it was like a gaggle of teens. I don't know what the hell that was about. So that was kind of off to
yeah, get up there, old man.
A weird
curmudgeon.
A weird stuff. But I mean, like, I'm not the only one who's seen that.
Oh no, for sure. I mean, honestly, like I said, I think it's pretty rude, but also, you know,
and I didn't want to like
some rude shit when I was a teenager.
I didn't want to go to the, you know, go get the management and do that. I just was like, I'll just handle this here because I don't want to like miss part of the movie. So most of you guys probably know Obsession was written and directed and edited by Curry Baker.
He also was the editor.
Yeah,
cool.
And they shot it in 20 days in Burbank, and so that's impressive. And it was made for, I don't know if it was $1 million or less, and it's made a lot of money since, and it's being highly praised. I liked it, but I won't say I really loved it. I thought there's a lot of good things about it, and I'm not going to even hold the movie accountable as much as like I had kind of an epiphany watching it that's not necessarily the movie's fault. I feel like I'm going to blame the zeitgeist because this would have been shot, like 2 years ago if it's just coming out now.
Yeah, potentially even 3, but it depends.
And so there's some things the movie has to offer that's I have fatigue from, and I'm just now realizing that. But before getting into it, I do want to say that the actress that I guess her name is, I hope I'm saying this right, Indy Navarrete. Is that?
Yeah, I don't know either, but yeah,
she carries the movie and does a phenomenal job. Like she really puts her all into it, and that's what like sells the movie.
That's what I've heard. Yeah.
So yeah, and it's not a bad movie. I'm not saying that. What the things that I realized that I'm just going to say this because maybe other people are thinking this is so many movies in the last 10 years, rightfully so, kind of want this A24 lighting. And it's like, you know, got this yellow warm glow and it's got these rich shadows, but every movie looks like that. And if you go back to the early 2000s and you look at The Ring, there's Underworld, there's The Grudge that are also doing that like dark blue palette, you know, so no shade to Curry Baker or Obsession or any movies that are doing it, but everyone's doing it. So you'll start to notice that. Obsession also, I found this pretty interesting, and this is more of an observation, it's not really a criticism, is the protagonist in, his name is Bear, in Obsession, is this guy who really likes this girl he went to high school with and now is working at a music store and he thinks he has a chance with her. But he's not a very interesting character, and he's kind of pathetic, and you know, like, you always hear, all right, you got to follow your protagonist, so they should be likable or sympathetic, or, you know, if you're not going to like him, they should be interesting. And you're a little bit sympathetic towards him, but I just found it interesting that we're all following this character just to see like a wish go wrong.
Yeah.
You know, that's kind of what you're waiting for. And there was some cool surprises in it. A couple things I did not see, and I don't want to get into that for spoiler reasons, but another observation I have that I personally have fatigue is a lot of modern horror movies in the last 10 years, especially, just go all in on spectacle. And it's interesting, but it's draining. Like if I get a spectacle, I want it to scare me. I want it to shock me, but I don't want to walk out of it feeling drained. And I felt that a little bit. And Obsession's not the worst offender by any stretch of the means, but I did pick up on that, and so it feels very familiar to these other films.
Well, you heard it here. Mixed reviews for Obsession from Peter.
Sorry to I'm starting to feel like the heel of horror movie reviews.
So that actually is a nice transition into the news section, because the first story I had for us is actually about Obsession. And as you kind of already alluded to, Obsession is sort of the first big horror box office success. I don't know. I mean, I feel like there's been a couple other really good hits too so far, but that's what's sort of being reported in the press. Part of that is because it was done on as you said, 750 to 1 million estimated budget, but it brought in so far 27 million globally in its first week, which is quite a huge amount when you know compared to the budget. And it was acquired by Focus Features for 15 million, so they've already made money. And you know, obviously the producers made money just from the sales. So like, you know, it's another good example or data point of horror movies, you know, being one of the sort of few bright spots in the entertainment industry at the moment, it seems like. And so this actually it sounds like it's a record. It's in terms of return on investment, it's tops Paranormal Activity from 2009 in terms of the cost to profit ratio.
Really? Because I thought that made like close to 300 million or something.
I'm not exactly sure how this is being measured, but like it could be like in the first week, or it could be, you know, because I mean, we don't know the full lifetime of Obsession yet either. You know,
I do think this also might speak more to younger kids because it's dealing with that generation.
Right. It's like, is it high school or college age?
They're like college. They're out of high school because they all hold jobs and like have apartments and stuff. Young, early 20s. Yeah.
Okay. Cool. Great. So the next thing I wanted to mention is that Undertone, it set a streaming date, and it's going to be June 26th, 2026. So later this summer. Not a lot to say about that. Peter and I saw that. Another one of those like made for very little, but did really well in the box office movies. And, you know, that I would almost say was also kind of a hit. Maybe not as big of a hit, but it did well. And yeah, that'll be coming out at the end of June. And then the next story is there's a film called Recluse that is premiering, I think, this week. Is Tribeca going on right now? Yeah, I think so. At Tribeca. And it actually sounds a lot like Undertone, speaking of. It's for audiophiles. And essentially it's writer-director Henry Chason's feature debut. And it centers on this woman named Joan, who's a sound recordist living in isolation, who heads back to her father's estate in the wake of a devastating fire. And tracing a series of ghostly audio fragments, she uncovers a buried family secret and someone intent on keeping it that way. So it's not exactly the same plot from Undertone, but like there's some similarities, don't you think?
Yeah.
And that stars Sasha Frolova, who was in The Empty Man, and Xander Berkeley from Terminator 2 Judgment Day, which, damn, still working, huh? And The Walking Dead.
I was like, wait a minute.
Xander, what? Who was he in?
I actually don't know. But speaking of Terminator 2, they're doing a special screening in July of Terminator 2 at the Vista with the Q&A. And I think I'm going to go with some friends, so you guys should come.
Well, who from Terminator 2 is part of that?
I couldn't tell you. Full of all sorts of information over here. So then the next story, the filmmakers, Radio Silence of Ready or Not, have signed on to direct a movie, Choose Your Own Adventure movie, based on the books. And I imagine it's probably got some horror angle to it.
Yeah. Because, that could easily go wrong.
Right. Well, and it's like obvious. It's the obvious genre, I think, for Choose Your Own Adventure, right?
Well, yeah, isn't it like what Last Cabin in the Woods kind of reads like that or plays out like that in some points? You're right. Whenever but they don't really know, but everyone else kind of knows. They're like picking their adventure for them if they do this and this happens. That's kind of cool.
So this is kind of interesting. I feel like late 90s, maybe it was the early 2000s, MTV had a MTV news break on some new kind of movie where it was Choose Your Own Adventure. So if you were in the theater, people could rush and press a button on to like vote for which direction the movie should go in. I don't know the name of it or whatever, but I thought it was an interesting idea.
Yeah, I'm wondering how interactive this is going to be. And I imagine it's probably going to be potentially for like a Netflix or something that has a, it's a streamer based where they could.
Right. Black Mirror did that.
Yeah, they had that. They came back just for that one episode, though. It was worth it.
Cumberbatch, I think is what it was called.
Cool. Next, we have found out that we have 2 new stars for JT Mulner's new creature feature called Skeletons, and it's going to be starring Kyle Gellner and Brie Larson, which is pretty exciting. I actually like Brie Larson quite a bit.
I do too. Yeah, she gets a lot of shit. Everyone loved her in like, Scott Pilgrim and stuff, but then you make her Captain Marvel and everyone's like, boo. It's like, dude, she's great. She's fucking great.
Kyle Gallner, he's phenomenal.
Yeah, he's like a horror movie veteran.
I mean, he's in all sorts. He's in Carolina. He's Dinner in America. He's non-horror stuff, but he did. He's done his horror too.
Yeah, it sounds like it's going to be pretty cool. And actually, it's what's interesting is it's produced by J.J. Abrams. Sony Pictures doing it, so it's not like, it doesn't sound like it's like a super low budget project. Obviously, if you're getting Brie Larson, Academy Award nominated actress in there, or did she win? Winner. I know nothing about the film, but it sounds pretty interesting. And apparently it's a modern take on the creature horror film told from the perspective of a young boy who slowly begins to discover that his beloved parents are hiding a disturbing secret about his mother's true nature.
Ooh, maybe
she must be a skeleton. Whoa.
Yeah, or skeletons in the closet. I get it. There it is.
Okay.
Maybe she's a werewolf. I'd love it to be a werewolf.
Yeah. So JT Mulner, not Gallner. Mulner is actually doing the new Texas Chainsaw Massacre movie that's going to be coming out. So
exciting.
So Peter, you got something to share?
Yeah, I have a little sad news. It's probably not getting that much attention, but an old friend, Pat Norton, we actually wrote a werewolf script like 15 years ago. He had an aunt who had been in some movies when we were younger, and he always was like, yeah, she's in 3 O'Clock High, which is a fucking great movie. If you guys haven't seen that, it's from the 80s. And she passed away. Her name is Caitlin O'Henny. But what I didn't realize is she was actually in a few horror movies. She was in He Knows You're Alone. She was in Wolfen. She was in The Purple Rose of Cairo. She was in Late Phases. She's been in a lot of things that some of you guys have seen. So I just wanted to put that out there because it's always sad when someone,
What's her name again?
Caitlin O'Henny.
Caitlin O'Henny.
Heaney. And he just posted something about this last week, and I was like, oh shit. But then when I saw that she was in He Knows You're Alone, I was like, oh fuck, I know Armand who directed that. So I'm going to see if Armand will share any memories about her.
Well, rest in peace, Catherine. Well, on that down note,
I'm all full of down notes.
Let's transition to the one and only kind of genre film that I could find that's going to be dropping this weekend, May 29th. And that is Backrooms, a film that a lot of people have been excited about. I'm excited about it, actually, to check it out. And that's written and directed by Kane Parsons with another writer, Will Sudik. And it stars Chiwetel Ejiofor, which I can never pronounce properly, and Renate Reinsve. There's so many actors with hard to pronounce names. Mark Duplass, that one's easy. I got that one.
3 syllables.
There you go. So, I think most people are aware of this, but basically the log line is, after a therapist's patient disappears into dimensions beyond reality, she must venture into the unknown to save him. Basically, it's one of those liminal films, which is really popular right now. In fact, Passengers got a little bit of the liminalness to it as well. So I think that's really in vogue this year. So we're about to be joined by a guest. Peter, why don't you tell us a little bit about him, since you've known him for a long time, right?
Pat Jankiewicz is our guest. Pat is a character. I mean that in the most endearing way. Like, you cannot miss him. I don't know if he's like 6'5", 6'7". He's a big dude. And he's got some serious stories, very interesting, huge heart. And he plays, I met him through horror trivia, ended up playing on the same team. We won a round this last week. Richard Matheson round.
Which actually, I mean, may not sound impressive at home, but it's so hard to get around in this.
And we were 2 players down, so everyone has 6 players. We had 4, and we won a round, mainly due to Pat. I contributed to 2 of the questions. And Pat.
What was the round about?
Richard Matheson. He wrote I Am Legend. He's a writer. Like, one of the questions was what Stephen King book was dedicated to him. And
that's what I'm talking about. This horror.
2006. The answer is Cell, and I knew that one. I thought it was initially Salem's Lot, but then Pat was like, "No, that was dedicated to his son." So like, it's like, okay, 2006. Shit, it's Cell.
See, this is on top. There's probably zero chance that we'll ever know which Stephen King book is dedicated to who. You know?
Yeah, they're not easy questions, but Pat has interviewed a lot of people, which gives him some inside scoop to things.
Which is why one of the reasons we wanted to have him on here.
Yeah, who do you work for? Like, who is he doing interviews for or writing for?
Fangoria was one. He's, I think, working with Darkside, which is like a British kind of Fangoria these days. He's written some books. He wrote a book about Jaws, the great American hero. And now he has one he's writing about Kolchak. Mm-hmm. So,
and I first knew him as he's also an actor.
Yeah, he's been in plenty of music videos. He was in Fight Club in background. You can see him.
Huh. This whole time I've known him for a little while now through Peter, and like I always thought he was like a creature actor. Like he does that too, and he has a pretty good story about trying out for something. I'll see if I'll bring it up. The point is he's a man of many talents, and he's going to tell us all about him. And he also, lastly, he makes a bit appearance in our short film, a surprise bit appearance, and he was really great in that role. So I'm excited to talk to him. I think you guys are as well. So here he is.
Yep. All right, Pat, welcome to Nightmare Logic. Thank you for joining us.
Yes.
Thank you, gents and dear Lenny. You're tossing these bums up.
I was we were recording and I was telling him we had our win at horror trivia, the Richard Matheson round.
Booyah!
And I don't know if I shared it, but you've interviewed Richard Matheson, right?
I did. The hilarious thing about Richard Matheson is I brought my big brother. And I remember when I was in junior high, when I started junior high, and junior high is after elementary school, where every kid thinks he's the star of his own movie. You enter junior high and you find your place in the pecking order is terrible. I remember my big brother said, "You should read this. This will help you accept junior high." And he handed me that great Richard Matheson novel, I Am Legend. And it was the reverse Jesus cover where he's holding the stake and the hammer and the crowd's trying to tear him apart. And it was the last man on earth being obsessed with his former friends and everything while he's the last man on earth and everyone else is a bloodthirsty vampire. Perfect book to start junior high with.
Yeah, no, I think I mentioned we interviewed Steve Niles and he was saying that was his favorite vampire book.
By the way, Steve Niles is a genius. He's really cool and really smart. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
You guys loved him, right?
Oh yeah, he was so nice.
He is one of even when he did arbitration, I've interviewed Steve a couple times for Fangoria, and one of his wives was from Michigan. So when I first talked to him, he was married to a girl from Michigan. And the cool thing about him is he is so laid back. He is so not a horror guy. With his soul patch and everything, he should be a jazz DJ in Santa Monica, but he's one of the smartest guys, and you read his books. Did you ever read, it's the most obscure of his books, but I love it. He did a horror comic called Giant Monster.
I didn't read that one.
I have not read that one.
It's an astronaut, goes to space, 50s setup, comes back a giant monster, and they're trying to calm him down when he's destroying everything. So they get his AA sponsor, and somebody makes the mistake of bringing in his ex-wife, which, with the megaphone to talk to him, which only makes the monster rage even more. And with Matheson was somebody I'd read all his books. I'd seen his Twilight Zone. I loved Kolchak. So when we interviewed Matheson, I was in college, and my cute girlfriend, Lisa, came along. She was my photographer. And my big brother and I are asking all these sincere questions. And he's starting out the interview kind of cold. He felt cold towards us. And then Lisa would ask something like, how did you think of The Incredible Shrinking Man? And I'm thinking, oh my God, he's going to kill her. And he would be, instead, he was warming up. He was so used to being interviewed by teenage boys, having a cute girl talk to him and ask him about his work. Even if it was something as obvious as, how did you come up with The Incredible Shrinking Man? He was excited by her questions.
This is why we have Taffeta. It's
there
just
you go.
very disarming.
I have known my place my whole life.
But you could see him warm up. Lisa would ask him, how did you come up with that one Twilight Zone Little Girl Lost? And he would excitedly tell her in great detail. He warmed up to Tom and I, but boy, oh boy, he was frigid in the beginning, except to her. So towards the end of it, he actually warmed up and he was laughing, but he's kind of Norwegian and stuff, so he wasn't really big on laughter. And what's kind of cool is he's in my first book talking about his original drafts of Jaws 3D. His son, R.C. Matheson, is in my second book because he was the story editor. He wasn't story editor, but he wrote the best episodes of the Incredible Hulk TV series. And he used to write short stories for Twilight Zone magazine. And he's a good writer. He's you know what I mean? People don't know this, but his other son co-created Bill and Ted's Excellent Adventure, Chris Matheson. So he put San Dimas on the map.
Wow.
Right. So, Pat, you've written books for Jaws, right? The Incredible Hulk?
Yeah. Just when you thought it was safe, a Jaws companion. You Wouldn't Like Me When I'm Angry, an Incredible Hulk companion. Buck Rogers in the 25th Century, a TV companion. And just to mix things up, Greatest American Hero, the TV companion.
And so I don't know if this is putting the cat out of the bag. So now you're tackling Kolchak?
You know what? If I'm going to tell anyone, Pedro, it's going to start with you because you're my teammate on our unnameable team. By the way, here's a fun fact. We won't be naming it here. But I said, if any of you can come up with a name more offensive than Stephen King's Children of the Porn, we'll do it. And our name is so offensive, we can't name it. You have to come to Horror Trivia. We literally, one of our teammates tried to mention one of our victories and use the team's full name and immediately got blocked by Facebook police. So my promise to the team was, if you guys can out-offend Stephen King's Children of the Porn, they went about 5 miles past offensive. But the good news is, I've interviewed, I have Matheson, of course. I have over 14 of the monsters. I have the Night Strangler himself. I grabbed Richard Henderson. I have the female vampire hooker, Catherine Rollins, played by a wonderful actress dancer with great stories. I've got Richard Keel on playing the Diablero and playing the Diablero, and he played the swamp monster, which is the one that messed me up as a small child. I remember my father telling me, there's no goddamn swamp monster in the basement, and the show takes place in Chicago. Then when I interviewed Richard Keel years later, he informed me that he was a native Detroiter as well. So my father was wrong. The swamp monster was from Detroit. He just wasn't hiding in our septic tank in the basement.
Well, so for people like me who aren't that familiar with Kolchak, you want to explain a little bit about Kolchak and what it is?
It's the father of the X-Files. And I have an interview in the book with Chris Carter, the creator of the X-Files, and he literally says, it's this is where I got the X-Files. And he's been very generous with acknowledging that. The shows are nothing alike except that they're fighting monsters. But by doing that, he's given Kolchak was written off by pop culture. Stephen King trashes the show in Danse Macabre. He likes the first TV movies by Matheson, but he wrongly craps on the show. And one of his least favorite episodes turned out to be the running debut of Bob Zemeckis and Bob Gale, which is where Kolchak battles a headless motorcyclist who was beheaded in the 50s. And what happened from that episode, when Steven Spielberg was writing Poltergeist, he contacted Zemeckis and Gale and said, hey, it's a new house. I don't know why it's haunted. You guys got any ideas? And they said, let's borrow from our Kolchak and have them move the graves, but not. In the Kolchak, the headless biker, his head goes one way and his body goes another. So they did that for road work in Chicago. They move so they do the same thing. They move the graves, but they move the markers, but they don't move the graves. And so that became the basis for Poltergeist, and so Poltergeist owes its origins to Kolchak in a way.
That's interesting.
And
really cool.
Matheson did the first 2 TV movies. And he told me in 1970, they went to Seattle and they did the Underground City. And when they did the Underground City, he thought, this would be a hell of a setting for a new Kolchak. And because the original Kolchak TV movie was the highest rated movie of all time until the day after, the Nick Meyer movie about World War III. So until that, when he had to do the sequel, he decided to do it in Seattle. He left before the TV series because Dan Curtis wasn't involved with it. What was great about this is in college, I would write for different magazines, Starlog, Fangoria, Wizard, all that stuff. And Starlog was obsessed with getting every Star Trek actor. And I didn't give a crap about Star Trek, but I knew if I told them, I don't want to talk to the people, I don't want to talk to the regulars. I want the guest stars. Because all of the guest stars had done my favorite shows as a kid. The Incredible Hulk, Buck Rogers, The Greatest American Hero, and the best of the best were the ones who did Kolchak. And when I found Suzanne Charney, who was the female vampire, her stories are so amazing. I cannot wait for you guys to read it. So Kolchak was one of those things I remember as a kid, you'd have sleepovers during the CBS Late movie on a Friday night because they'd show Kolchak and then they'd show some schlock you were too young to see in a theater, like Beyond the Door, The Manitou, any crap like that you got to watch on the CBS Late movie. Creature from Black Lake, which is actually pretty good, shot by Dean Cundy. So Kolchak, and this is the main argument in my book, I argue Kolchak was very, very influential on future horror. In the last episode of this series, which was shot by Seymour Robbie, who was this hack who did Land of the Giants and Lost in Space, it's tell me if this sounds familiar. It's an egg-laying reptile eating miners in a tunnel. And the creature grows to enormous size. It's the last episode of Kolchak is basically Alien. And by the way, Alien starred Tom Skerritt, who happened to star as a politician who sells his soul to the devil on Kolchak the Night Stalker. He's in a great episode called The Devil's Platform. The story editor on Kolchak the Night Stalker is David Chase, who created The Sopranos. There's an episode of The Sopranos where the angry guy from Casino, the Goodfellas, Spider, what's his name in the show? He's the one, the young punk, Michael, the young punk on Sopranos and his girlfriend are disposing of a body. And the body is, while they're disposing of the body, David Chase's episode of Kolchak the Werewolf plays in the background. And the great thing is, I've been going to storage and pulling out these old boxes I have of all my work to suss out a paragraph or two on Kolchak. And it's really quite exciting. So there's another episode of Kolchak written by David Chase, his own personal favorite, and the one that terrified me, where there's a swamp a guy in a coma in a sleep study experiment remembers this boogeyman from his Cajun childhood. So it's running around Chicago, actually New York Street on the Universal Backlot, killing people. And it's basically a Nightmare on Elm Street. You know what I mean? I mean, the very best episode is called Horror in the Heights. You could have made it today. It could have been an X-Files. And if you were going to look at any episode of the series, I would urge to start with that. Horror in the Heights. There's an elderly Jewish neighborhood, and now swastikas are appearing all over the neighborhood, and older folks are dying violently. And what happens is Everyone thinks it's neo-Nazis or something, and it's actually this Hindu demon that's moved into the neighborhood, and it takes the form of the person you trust the most. It's a great episode. So when I was running for Starlog, they were doing a big director's issue, and they said, we don't care what TV director you talk to, find somebody. So I interviewed Robert Shearer, who directed the one with the ape man running around Chicago. He directed Primal Scream. But I found Michael Caffey, really wonderful TV director. Every one of his shows was the most interesting episode of that respective series. He directed Horror in the Heights, and I was stunned. Him and his wife, really nice people, they lived out in Glendale. They were like an older version of my parents. You know what I mean? I mean, they never said damn in their life. Very nice people. But he's the father of Go-Go's singer, bassist Charlotte Caffey. And he was the one who directed that. He's the one who directed that Kolchak episode.
Wow. We were just talking about the Go-Go's earlier. That's right.
Oh, seriously? I did not know that. I'm like Amazon. I'm always listening. But he had never talked to anyone about that episode. So he gave me a ton of stories. He also worked on Briscoe County. Big fan. He loved Bruce Campbell. He directed Wild Wild West. But he directed all these, bangers and reruns. There was stuff you would watch, and it was always your favorite episode of that rerun. You know what I mean? But Horror in the Heights, he said the monster kind of looked crappy to him. So he would have the guy, it would be a rabbi, it would be a cop, anybody, the older people he was fitting on would trust, but they would have this terrible baboon creature shot from behind coming up to you. And it was intensely terrifying. I mean, the show was brilliant, and it would go away and it would come back. And this is why it was perfect to do a book on. It's one of those shows that it would disappear, and then it would reappear when you least expected it. You know what I mean? And all my books, I wanted to do something there'd never been a book on. There'd never been a book on all 4 Jaws movies. There'd never been a book on The Incredible Hulk. And the reason why is my book is 2 pounds. It was one of those things. It was like the Vietnam War, man. Once you're into it, it's you're not getting out of it anytime soon.
Right, a wormhole.
Yeah. And once you start, and with Greatest American Hero, which I started during COVID thinking it would be a lark, everybody from that show would contact me. If they would hear from a friend, hey, I just got interviewed about the Greatest American Hero. They would contact me and want to talk. And I said, please, let me get my Stephen J. Cannell stories in. And I remember my sister and my brother-in-law, Diane and Jim, were in town. And when they were here, every time the phone rang, they would make a joke. It's someone from Greatest American Hero wants to talk to you. And I, for the week they were there, I would go, shut up, because it always was. People would hear from a friend of a friend, and they said, you got to get my stories in there. And they were right. Everybody's stories were compelling, but it was one of those things where it was like the never-ending story. I couldn't finish it because people kept contacting me out of the blue. And it's like eventually, and I could tell you, but I'm not going to, the 2 people who called me after the book went to press. I was heartbroken. Their stories were okay, not as good as the ones in the book. But I'm like, it could be in the book.
Yeah, well, it's for the, the reissue, the like updated re-release.
Greatest American Hero. I slept with a copy of the book for like 2 weeks because I had a recurring nightmare. That I was still writing it. And so I would wake up at like 3 a.m. and grab the book and just go right back to sleep. But it was this terrible, it was like Donald Duck in mathematics land. You would have this, all you could see are words and numbers, and you'd wake up, see the book there, and go back to sleep.
Wow. You were a human encyclopedia, Pat.
Oh, thank you.
No, I know. It always impresses me how much like crazy stories and what you have up there. But you're not just an encyclopedia. You are an actor as well.
I am. I got my SAG card from David Lynch. I wrote a commercial with my brother, Tom Jankiewicz, who wrote Grosse Pointe Blank, and he was a big re-rate guy. And my brother, Don, we wrote a commercial for David Lynch, and then David Lynch brought send Donald and I to read for it. Tom was out of town. And David Lynch hired me to do the commercial. And that got me my SAG card. And then for a while, I didn't realize it was a really good thing. I eventually got a commercial agent, and I've done over 50 commercials. You know, I've done commercials for Geico. I've done commercials for Dippin' Dots. I was on Burger King on 80 feet in the air, not too far from here. I was 80 feet above the Van de Kamp's bakery when they hollowed it out. I was sitting on a girder with another guy while the Burger King came down on another girder. Real girders. This wasn't CG. We were 80 feet in the air, and Burger King came down to give us a Whopper.
I remember that commercial. That's crazy.
The great thing about the commercial is this beautiful girl comes up and she goes, I brought you both a spit bucket. And the other guy had like a bunch of hamburger to spit in the bucket. And she goes, where are your half-eaten hamburgers? And I just rubbed my belly. I go, you're giving me free Whoppers. I'm not spitting out crap.
Where for those listening at home, if you saw Pat, it would be a lot funnier because he's very large. Not like you're not like overweight, but you're just big. You're a big guy.
6'9".
6'9".
Yeah.
There you go. Wow.
And and I mean, people would have seen you in things they don't realize. Like you were in The Rundown, you were in
Goon
Fight
2.
Club.
I'm Goon 2 in The Rundown. My brother will not stop reminding me that he's Goon 1, which is really wow. Yeah. The weird thing is, well, that was a story in itself because I spent like 6 months watching David Fincher, and you always hear people talking about David Fincher, and they always make him sound like evil. He's not evil. He wears a black Nike cap. He's sardonic. The cool thing about him is he's very sardonic. When he says that the crew would walk through fire for him, because he's a very cool dude. He's very, very cool. And he'll be very sardonic. If he's setting up a shot, he'll say, could I have at least one of my 4 set dressers out of this shot? And they will scramble because they love him and he loves them. And I mean, to me, that was kind of amazing. You're carrying Meatloaf, and they would bring in a 400-pound man instead of Meatloaf. You know what I mean? I mean, we had to carry a real 400-pound man at one.
Like Meatloaf, the musician.
Yeah, the Meatloaf actually had to wear like a fat suit. But you know who designed the fat suit? Rob Bottin.
Oh, wow.
Now, if you know anything about Rob Bottin is the equivalent of Sasquatch. When you hear other makeup artists talk, he's mysterious. He'll disappear. He'll just disappear. And I remember at Crafty, I grabbed a cruller at the same time Rob Bottin did. And, we both grabbed the last cruller.
It was like a meet cute.
Yeah. And I said, no, you can have it, Rob Bottin. You're Rob Bottin. And he laughed. And the great thing is nobody gets to talk to Rob Bottin. So I would talk to Rob Bottin every day. And he finally said, I've done more movies than Humanoids in the Deep. I said, yeah, but that was my favorite of your work. Because the monster looks so amazing. To me, it's not that Rob Bottin does something amazing on Total Recall with all the budget in the world. I'm more excited when he's glue gunning in a rubber monster for Roger Corman with no money. And he took all his Humanoids money and plunged it into the fog. He's one of those guys, you know what I mean? I mean, I remember when my dad was in town from Arizona and his secretary was in town and he wanted me to show her around, you take her around all the sites, show the Bronson Cave and all that. So I took them to Universal City Walk. And when we were at Universal City Walk, Rob Bottin said hello. And I said, Rob, you're supposed to be missing. I go, you're not supposed to be at one of the biggest tourist traps in Southern California. And he laughed and he said, I'm not missing. I know where I am at all times. And my father was laughing because Rob's very tall, and like we are. And my dad was teasing him. He goes, like an older, hairier version of one of my sons. And he was very cool with my pop. And it was, you know what I mean? I mean, my dad's from Detroit, and RoboCop is sort of the patron saint of Detroit movies, even though it was completely shot in Dallas and Kaiser's still here.
Yeah, I was about to say that's such it's our movie. Like Dallas claims that as our movie.
It is your movie.
We're like, no. RoboCop is a Dallas movie.
They will be very serious about taking it too.
In Houston, because it even has a Houston sign. When you're driving to Detroit, it says Houston, Texas, and they kept that in the movie, which is just bonkers.
There are 8 seconds of Detroit in that movie, and it's the OCP commercial at the very beginning.
Yeah, but the scene with the melting toxic waste guy, that's in Menneson, Pennsylvania.
Part of it's Kaiser Steel. I've talked to some. RoboCop is one. By the way, you guys don't live too far away from Ed Neumeier, who created RoboCop, and you're right. Menneson, Pennsylvania deserves its due. That's where the Jesus analogy Paul Verhoeven will mention to you comes in. He literally, if you watch the movie, he's walking on water when he's avenging himself at the ending. You know, that and one of the great things about Ed Neumeier is OCP is based on him being a studio exec at Universal Studios. When you look at the movie, basically, the old man who I also interviewed, Daniel Hurley, is based on Lou Wasserman, and Dick is based on Sid Sheinberg. You know, and they weren't evil when he did the movie, but that's the hierarchy he was doing. And if you watch the movie, he was looking out the window. He said he was looking out the window in the early 80s, you know, because he's a studio exec, he's bored stiff. And he sees a rain machine, and he sees Harrison Ford in an overcoat running back and forth outside his window with a giant gun. And so when the meeting breaks up, he asks one of the grips, what's the movie about? Oh, Harrison Ford plays a cop who shoots robots. And so he blended everything he was going through with Universal and everything else, and he came up with RoboCop. You know, and the heartbreak, like for Stuart Gordon was working on a movie forever called Robo-Jocks, low-budget movie. They kept running out of money, and they'd shoot, and they'd run out of money and shoot. Took so long for Robo-Jocks, which had the title first, to get released. When RoboCop came out, even though Robo-Jocks was first, they had to change their title to Robot Jocks because they kept getting threatened by Orion that they were going to sue them. One of my college professors, Willard Pugh, is the mayor of Detroit in RoboCop 2. He's also Eaton in Hills Have Eyes too, and he had great RoboCop stories. Again, they never shot in Detroit. They didn't shoot in your beloved Dallas in RoboCop 2. They shot that in Houston, right?
Yeah. It's where you can see like the sign, like I was saying. It actually it says Houston, Texas as they're driving in the movie, and they kept that in.
Wow.
I remember hearing a story. I don't think it was from a story about you, but I think Peter first told me. But there's some movie where you got the part because you ran weird.
Okay,
you know what I'm talking about?
Okay, I'll tell you. You know, I do a dog run where I can run as fast as the dog on all fours. And it's one of those things when you audition for anything, they'll ask you, is there anything you can do that no one else in the room can do? And when you tell them I can run as fast as a dog on all fours, they always challenge you. And so I remember I went out for Incubus. It's a video called Talk Show on Mute. And I remember I almost left it was a long audition. It was about all the animals were walking on 2 legs and all the humans are kept as pets. And I remember I was so mad because I got a parking ticket on Ivor. It was by the, you know, and I was so mad I almost went home. And I thought, you know what? I'm going to stay because I'm not going to let some other son of a bitch get it because LA is so evil that they gave me a parking ticket. I put all my rage and Foro Zigamundi. She was she directed what's the band with Joan Jett?
The Blackhearts?
Before.
Cherry Bomb, The Runaways.
She directed the Runaways movie. So she goes, what can you do that no one can? And I said, I can run all fours. And she said, what? And I said, back up. Everyone back up 5 feet. And I did my 4-legged run. and they couldn't keep me doing it on camera. I also do it in a video for a band called Solution AD, who are produced by a Pittsburgh band called Live. And they wound up putting me on the cover of the single. And we shot that in the Hotel Roslyn, which is in 7 and all these other things. So you see me running up and down the halls where Bela Lugosi used to live at one point, you know what I mean? And so when I did that video, they came to the band, played the Viper Room, and I got this weird call from their manager saying, "Would you introduce them at the Viper Room?" And it was one of the kids from Kids in the video. And I remember they kept making me slow down my 4-legged run because I was running faster than the Panaglide. So they made me slow down a little bit. If you see the video, I have to slow down because I was outrunning their Panaglide. And I mean, we're doing it in this crazy old-timey hotel. And when the weirder experience was, I'd never been to the Viper Room to introduce a band before. It was even smaller than this room. I had to bend my head. I remember when I came in and I thought Johnny Depp was in the video. No, it was his club. He was just playing bartender. And he goes, "What do you have, big man?" And I said, "Stoli." And Johnny Depp poured me a Stoli, handed it, chugged it back. My godfather, Uncle Chet Shotka, his favorite drink. So I fired down a Stoli and he goes, "Want another?" I said, "Yes." So after 2 Stolis, you're feeling no fear. I went up on stage. I had to bend my head down and introduce them. And I'd introduced Buckethead a couple times. Buckethead was a family friend. And so I would introduce Buckethead at the, but never at the Viper Room. So I introduced this band at the Viper Room. I had to bend my head down. And it would play it on this 100-year-old show called Alternative Nation. And all these girls are running up, and they thought I was the bad guy in the video, but I was actually the sympathetic hero, according to these girls. So I was very happy. They wouldn't let you into their party. I assumed it was because I was the creep next door, but actually I was the underdog.
That's a great story.
So Pat, you've also done monster roles, right?
You know what? That's something I got from Kolchak. I would watch Richard Kiel throwing cops around, and I always thought it looked like fun. And so when I started doing the great thing about doing monsters is I fell into it. I landed a Coca-Cola commercial called Distant Relatives, where a guy is watching a football game. And, you don't like when your relatives drop in. We drop in from 2 million years in the past. And Tom Berman did the makeup effects. Well, Tom Berman is an effing legend. He won every Emmy there is to win from he did the Grey's Anatomy, he did Nip Tuck, but more importantly, he did the Phantom. He did the Phantom of the Paradise in his teeth and helmet with his brother. He did Jaws, uncredited for James Bond. He did every horror movie you've ever seen. I'm a big fan of a killer bear movie called The Prophecy. He built the bear for The Prophecy. I remember going to the bathroom at Berman Studios, and I apologize to Vincent Van Dyke, who now owns the effects studio, because I looked up and he did The Devil's Rain, and I missed the urinal because I was so excited to see a framed Devil's Rain poster hanging in the urinal. And it was, Tom Berman is also, I don't know if you know your Bigfoot cryptid history, Tom Berman is allegedly the Sasquatch in the Zapruder tape of Bigfoot films, the Patterson Gimlin film.
Yeah, I know what you're talking about. It's like the Super 8 one in the forest. Yeah,
shot in Bluff Creek. And
didn't they just this a couple weeks ago?
Yeah, there's a documentary. It just played SIFF, the Seattle International Film Festival. And they're saying it's some bow-legged cowboy, but the rumor is it's John Chambers. And I just did a story on Videoscope for this last year where I went up to every effects artist I knew to get a quote on doing Bigfoot. And your beloved friend, Zach Krieger, who was very cool to talk to me. Zach Krieger goes, "Why would you ask me about this?" And I said, "Because my deadline is tomorrow and I need one more cool name." He goes, "I just produced a whole documentary about this for Apple
For
TV.
Hulu.
Yeah, for Hulu.
Yeah, that's
and so I go, well,
three-part.
thank God, because Zach was on Stephen King's Children of the Porn, and it was the week that
Which is for those listening home, it's the
our horror trivia team.
team. Yeah.
And we got shellacked. And he had the #1 movie in the country. This is when Barbarian was out. And he leans over to me during the game and he goes, Zach, the great of the Oscar-winning weapons and everything. He goes, these questions are hard. I said, Zach, at this point, I wouldn't trust your answers in the Barbarian round. He laughed and he said, fair. But I mean, so he had great stories. He thinks it's the bow-legged cowboy, but everybody, all the makeup effects artists I knew supposedly heard from somebody at Rick Baker's that it was John Chambers. And the Bigfoot does look a lot like one that appears in Lost in Space, which would have been going on at the time. And I've done several creatures from Rob Berman, Tom's son. And he goes, hey, Dad, he's in the article too. He goes, hey, Dad, everyone is saying you're the Bigfoot in 1967, the Bigfoot famous 8mm footage. And he goes, yeah, I've heard that too. And he goes, Dad's usually much more direct, so he thinks something's up. So he wouldn't even die. I've done several creatures for Tom Berman and Rob Berman, and Tom did Planet of the Apes at the time, just saying. So he would have been very familiar with simian masks and body shape. And
Yeah.
And I want to believe it's real. I still want to believe it's real. But again, having been a Bigfoot, until you show me footage of Bigfoot with his head off pounding coffee like I did at the top of the Colorado Rockies with Brian Thompson's fake blood all over my face. Until I see the Bigfoot with his mask off at Crafty in any black and white picture, I will not believe it's fake until that. You show me that picture, I'll believe. Because, I mean, they had this blood thing like a rainbow. I killed the guy from Farscape. Spoiler alert.
Which movie are you?
I'm talking about Hoax.
Okay, copy.
We shot at the top of the Colorado Rockies. I break the leg of some girl who's in Sunny with a Sunny. What's the Philadelphia show called?
It's Always Sunny in Philadelphia.
That's the one. Thank you. So I break a guest star her leg, and I kill Brian Thompson, and I kill Ben Browder.
You cannot kill Brian Thompson.
I do.
He lives forever.
The great thing is when we're shooting at the ending, and he's in my second favorite movie of all time,
Cobra.
which is Miracle Mile. Although I do love Cobra.
Yeah, Miracle Mile is great too.
And so what happens is I haven't been to the Colorado Rockies since I'm 3. The stunt coordinator comes up and says, hey fellas, as you can see, we're losing the light. And it was that weird kind of sunrise where shafts of light are starting to punch through in the distance and they're heading right for us. We're at the top of the Colorado Rockies. There's all these crazy Dr. Seuss type trees. She goes, our stunt coordinator, she goes, fellas, we're losing the light. She goes, that's the river running 75 miles an hour. If either of you fall into it, we will not be able to see you, rescue you, and you will drown. She goes, so she literally says, you've got like 2 feet of wrestling action. And so we blocked it really fast. I said, hey, Brian, I'm going to do this, this, and this. Okay. He goes, okay, I'm going to fight you here, and then I'm going to scream. And we got it. We got the last shot just before the shaft of light appeared over and it was literally, here's a great story, by the way. I was sharing a cabin with a guy named Bill Munns, who did Return of the Living Dead. He did the original Swamp Thing, and he did one of my all-time favorites, The Boogans. So on the set, before we had this little cabin up in the Colorado Rockies, and about 100 feet away from our cabin is a pioneer cemetery. Wooden graves from the 1800s, wooden grave markers. And every day I would walk into town to drink with the stunt crew. You know what I mean? I mean, it was a 3-mile walk, and one of them half-bombed would drive you back. And I mean, I would go all over this town. It was the town where Alfred Packer, the cannibal miner, murdered all the miners. And it was also the town where Trey Parker and the other crew, Matt Stone.
Yeah, I own some land right outside of that town.
I do. Where? We were probably shooting it.
Well, Fairplay is the name of the town. That's
we were
Breckenridge, and maybe you're thinking of Breckenridge. Anyways, that whole area.
You're very close. Breckenridge sounds familiar. Is that where the courthouse is?
There's a courthouse in Fairplay. I think they're different counties, but Breckenridge is like the ski town. Fairplay is like where the old South Park ghost town is. And South Park is the name of the actual
And there's
valley.
a tourist trap, too. There's a bunch of stores. But here's the weird thing. So every day before, they'll give you a per diem and they'll take you out. There was nowhere to go. So I would walk 3 miles into town, literally watching deer, watching bats. Every time I'd walk into town, the bats would fly out of a cave just like Scooby-Doo. So I would walk into town, and the most famous guy in the town played Alfred Packer on the History Channel recreation. And so I'm the only guy my height in the town. And I remember I walked into the general store and she goes, "Shug, are you the Bigfoot?" And I go, "Yeah." So what happened is it cost $6 to buy. I was buying these generic off-brand Pop-Tarts. You know what I mean? Because regular Pop-Tarts in this town, because it was so far up in the Rockies, were $12. So I'm buying $6, and I fell in love with a local girl. There was a deer. When we come back in the crew van, she would meet us in the driveway, and I would always feed her generic Pop-Tarts. And by the way, we weren't allowed
Not that
to
$12 Pop-Tart, though. Just the
Bill and I give her a nickname. He would say, "Pat, Jane Doe is waiting for you." At 6 a.m, the night of the massacre, so much fake blood went through the nose of the Sasquatch mask. I looked like I was in a drive-by shooting. Half my face is bloody from fake blood. And we're in a crew van at 6 a.m, and I'm still in the Bigfoot costume, because every day the Bigfoot costume would be on our coffee table. I took all these amazing shots and I sent them to friends. This is like 3 phones ago, but we weren't allowed to share them yet. So now that the movie's out, I can't find any of my damn photos. But Bill Munns took this great shot of me with half my face covered in fake blood. I've got a gorilla body and gorilla hands. And this beautiful deer is she's eating fake Pop-Tarts out of my hand. And so the really scary part was in the last week of shooting, all of the hotels have welcome hunters all over. And I'm worried about catching a bullet. And the stunt coordinator goes, "There are rumors of a Colorado Bigfoot. So please don't go too far away from the camera crew." And I remember the guy who played Chewbacca told me when they shot Return of the Jedi in Crescent City, California, he had to wear an orange vest so no one popped him thinking he was Bigfoot.
Wow.
And I'm literally starting to get nervous. And then I'm worrying about Jane Doe. And I said to the really nice lady I mentioned who ran the local. Oh, and by the way, the movie theater was a Quonset hut. And they'd been playing Suicide Squad for like 6 months. And they go, "Are you leaving? We're about to show Independence Day Resurrection." I'm like, "Oh, it stinks." But I said, "You guys aren't going to shoot my deer once I leave, do you?" And they go, No. They want the antlers. They're not after the girls. They're after her sons. So I felt bad about that.
Well, I feel like maybe a lot of the rumors about Sasquatch and Bigfoot and stuff are really just people seeing people filming movies about Sasquatch, and they see the costume and they're like, and it just perpetuates the myth.
I swam in the Trinity River. I remember I swam in the Trinity River, and with those high grass right by where they spotted him. And when the water picks you up and you're looking deep into the woods and you're seeing all these weird animals you're not used to seeing, I can fully believe there's a race of apes. I mean, the hilarious thing is my brother and I wrote a Bigfoot. My brother Tom and I wrote a Bigfoot movie, and his agent was teasing him. She goes, "You're one of my most popular writers. Do you really want to do a Bigfeet movie?" But it was optioned like 3 times and never made. And one of the arguments is when you think of this thing up there watching you, because every Bigfoot movie is about one of 2 things. You find Bigfoot, or you go looking for Bigfoot, or Bigfoot finds you. Those are the 2 types of Bigfoot movie. You know what I mean? And it's...
What would Harry and Henderson's be? Which one?
The Bigfoot finds you, because they hit him with the car and he comes
right.
back. And by the way, that was shot in my grandma's neighborhood. This is one of the exciting things. My mother's family is from Seattle. So we get something called Seattle fever. I mentioned earlier, I did that movie with Courtney Stodden, and every time Courtney Stodden busted out a Seattle reference, I would get really excited because we have a term in my family called Seattle fever. You run into anyone from Seattle, and because I grew up in Detroit and we would summer in Seattle, and Seattle was like the city of the future compared to Detroit. It was all neon, hot coffee. Everybody loved used bookstores. Used bookstores had these big fluffy cats wherever you went. You know what I mean? I mean, it was just the greatest. Seattle still is, I have to go once a year just to make a pilgrimage. And with Seattle, you know what I mean? I mean, it's just one of those things. Whenever you mention Seattle, we get excited. And, you know, Bigfoot was one of the things when we go out towards Seattle. It was a 3-day drive from Michigan. And you'd see In Search of and stuff, and you'd see all these hoary old Bigfoot documentaries. And I remember my brother Donald and I used to bicker in the car, but we would make a handshake agreement in Oregon for the safety of the family. We would keep a watch for Bigfoot.
Well, I think we're actually kind of like run a little low on time, but I just wanted to see if you had any projects that you want to mention in specific, or, you know, to the audience, or like to check out of stuff you're working on, you're excited about, or anything you want to share.
You know, well, I can't say what it is yet, but my comic book. Well, I can say about this. My comic book for an Arctic Press, Cosplayer versus Shark, is out right now, and thank God, doing very well. Knock on wood. And I'm just met with my artist for my next one. I'm very happy with that. I have a great cover story in the new issue of Dark Side about a Stephen King, Michael Jackson video. That story has to be read to be believed. So by all means, make a pilgrimage to Barnes & Noble. That's worth a look. It's got Sissy Spacek as Carrie on the cover. I'm working on, I'll tell you, my very first interview at age 15 in California, when I first moved to California, I interviewed the author Ray Bradbury. That'll be coming up. I suddenly realized with Ray gone, nobody's doing any new Ray Bradbury interviews. So Infinity Magazine will be running my very first interview with the great Ray Bradbury. You know, and it was kind of a cringe fest. You know, it was my first article. I was a kid. And my introduction was really bad. It was teenage boy bad. You know, you think your abilities were outshined by your lack of talent at that point. But my questions to Ray the Bee are pretty good. And his answers are 100 times better than my questions. And I even asked him about one of his stories, a really sad, epic story called The Foghorn. That became the basis of that late night Svengoolie favorite, The Beast from 20,000 Fathoms. And Ray has a lot of good stories on that. Ray basically craps all over most of the Hollywood adaptations of his work. So that'll be worth reading.
And that's coming out where?
That'll be coming out in Infinity Magazine. I'm hoping it'll be in their 100th issue, but I don't know. It's up to them. You know what I mean? But a new Ray Bradbury interview that's been sitting in a box in my storage. Let's see. And you can still watch my high-rated Fatal Detour. I always blank on the Courtney Stodden horror movie on BET. I'm a mutant luring influencers to my mansion and murdering them all one by one. And it's one of those things where it was great because, you know what I mean? You're shooting in an actual mansion. And because I'm killing influencers, I'm kind of the hero.
So true. Yeah. Well, we were saying in the introduction to you before you arrived, we mentioned that you also played a killer clown in our short film.
I was quite honored. I went to the table read. By the way, these guys had the table read for their short film. Closing time, right?
Last call.
Last call. Yeah. So I was in the table read. They did the table read at the pool hall from Toby Hooper's Salem's Lot, which blew me away.
That's right.
So we did the table read, and when you guys made what is the most important thing you learned? You worked together, you collaborated, you directed people. What is the most important thing you guys learned making this movie?
Oh man, doing the Uno reverse on us.
I'm a reporter. I got to. Oh.
I mean, I think there's a lot of things you you learn. I wish we had gotten more B-roll, which probably would have helped Christopher with the editing. The way it was written was unique in that there's no like B story. You're just following one character. So maybe having some B story going on, even on a minor level, would have given us more to work with.
Like flexibility in the end.
And I think I would have. So basically, actually, to answer your question, we're trying to possibly turn this into a feature.
Smart. It's an anthology, right?
In a way. And so I re-went through that and I'm like, how can I make this scarier? Because we don't have that much suspense. It's more atmosphere and kind of like, you know, what's the word I'm looking for? It's a little, it's eerie. Yeah. It's more of a mood thing. And so I was like, I want to make it scarier. So
it's like psychological, but it's not really like, like suspense. And
I've got to give myself credit here. Mike King from my Geico commercial plays your bartender.
Yeah, Ron.
Oh, you guys had worked together.
I was
the one who got us.
I see.
Yeah.
I said, you got to get Ron. And he goes, we're looking for a mysterious, possibly European. Pete goes, I'm looking for a mysterious, possibly European guy. And I'm like, Ron.
he was so good.
Yeah, he's
a
fantastic.
Great actor.
He's an amazing theater actor. And you know what? He brings a lot of genuine warmth on set, and that accent alone adds so much gravitas.
Well, and he was in The Mandalorian. So
and he was on The Mandalorian, yeah. He was on The Mandalorian after I worked with him, but it was amazing to see, because Ron is always working. Even when the industry is on life support, Ron is working.
I appreciated that he was willing to, take a shot with us. So that was cool. I think of what I learned, is really just working with actors, because it's like it's a skill that you don't develop until you do it. You know what I mean? And so, I've done a lot of documentary things, but and I've done some minor kind of directing of actors, but not in a way where they're like doing like real performances. So for me, I feel like that was an eye-opening experience. So.
Watching you guys in the 2 days I was there, you handle it really well. And I mean, and like every time you're doing a shoot, some things went wrong and you guys rolled with the punches. You know what I mean?
I appreciate that.
I was impressed to watch because I thought, well, this is where I'll see the real them. You know what I mean? This is how they handle pressure. You can watch anybody handle. It's like when I was watching Mick Garrison, the Michael Jackson video, and Michael Jackson took a powder, and you could see the strain on him. He's doing like this multi-million-dollar video. And his show horse has run out of the barn, and he's trying to remain calm. But I would watch him in between shots. He kept humming 8 days a week, and that became like his mantra. With you guys, I didn't see either of you humming Beatles songs. But what was cool about the two of you is you didn't turn on each other either. I was watching for that. You know what I mean?
You were watching for it.
Yeah, no, because I did a sex comedy movie in Palm Springs.
Oh.
And the two AFI directors, they were at the AFI Institute. Great guys. I'd done their AFI short, and when they got financing to make this, it suddenly became West Side Story, where each side of they turned on each other really terribly once the pressure cooked up. And I watched you guys, especially in the second day I was there, on the pressure cooker, and you would do this thing where you would run your hands through your hair, and Pete would do this. He would go, look up at the ceiling. And I thought, oh my God. And you guys didn't say anything? You weren't exploding on anyone?
I had a great time. I didn't have any...
I pulled Ron aside.
It was a little stressful. When we were building the set, that was probably the worst part.
No, there was times where I had to yell at you, Pat. I had to yell at David. I had to yell... and I'm not usually one who yells.
I think we're about out of time, but thank you so much for coming by.
Yeah, thanks, Pat. It is always a treat to have you. You have such great stories and so much to share.
You're not going to say anything?
Yeah, thanks for coming.
You're the most charming person on this podcast.
No, I'm just here for story time. Thank you.
Listen, the three of you, this is great. I love the Lost Boys poster and the Pet Cemetery on the wall. The whole room is great. You know what I mean? So, guys and gal, thank you very much for having me. It was a blast.
No, it was great. Thank you. And, we'll see you at Horror Trivia. Thanks for tuning in to today's episode of Nightmare Logic. We want to give a big thank you to Pat Jankiewicz for speaking with us today. For this episode's show notes, visit our website at nightmarelogic.net and follow us on Instagram at nightmarelogicpod. We want to give a big shout out to our composer Lars Lang Peterson for our score. Looking forward to catching you again next week, so tune in then.